Our next inductee is Bob Gottlieb from basketball. Bob started his coaching career here in Southern California and coached at all levels of basketball for 48 years. He coached elite travel for 22 years in 22 years in the AAU, 5 years in high school, 15 in college, and the NBA Pro Summer League for 6 seasons. His collegiate coaching career ended with almost 100 wins in Division I and a legacy of respect amongst his peers. Bob's son Doug was previously inducted for basketball, so this is the first father-son in our Hall of Fame. Fortunately, Bob passed away in 2014, so accepting this award on behalf of Bob is Doug. Doug, you're coming up, yeah. I know you guys were deciding earlier. Doug Gottlieb.
This comes off? Yes, this comes off? Does it matter? This is fine. Okay.
Take it. Doug knows what he's doing up there.
First, it's great to be back, and thank you so much, not just to the committee, but to Eric and Mike Sottenheim, who I remember getting that phone call that my dad was going to be posthumously inducted. And it's one of those moments to which you do obviously wish your father was here, but in many ways, it does make it bittersweet. But I want to mention the sweet part because it allows me, my brother, my mom to tell stories about my dad so you knew who he was and the impact he had on Southern California basketball. He was a New Yorker. He's from the Bronx, moved out to Hewlett, out to the island when he was 13, and his dad did not want him to be involved in basketball. Matter of fact, he thought basketball was crazy. It's crazy. My grandpa was an accountant who became a car dealer, and he was masterful with money. He knew nothing about this basketball that Bobby liked. Nothing. And so when, of course, my dad graduated from Ohio State and had an MBA from Columbia, it was obvious that you go from an Ivy League school to coaching high school basketball at Fair Lawn, New Jersey. It's the dream of any Jewish mother and father. He didn't just coach high school basketball in one area, though. Whether he endeared himself or wore out his welcome, it was kind of a mercurial journey. He was actually the high school coach at Death Valley High School. Yes, he drove the bus, taught history, and also was the basketball coach. He coached in a little town outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He coached in Colorado Springs. His first college coaching job was at Quinnipiac, which is in Connecticut. And not only was he the varsity assistant and the head freshman's coach, but he also had to coach soccer and golf, and he had never picked up a golf club in his life. So, of course, he picked up a book, and then he had to line the field for the soccer games, just like coaches had to do back in the day. He went from there, and he was an assistant coach at places like Creighton and Kansas State, and a head coach at Jacksonville, at UW-Milwaukee. And what basketball brought us to Southern California in 1981, he lost his job at UWM. He became an assistant coach for the great Tex Winter at Long Beach State. But his impact in Southern California youth sports can still be felt today. Not just myself, my brother, who's a longtime assistant now at Oregon State, the longest tenured assistant in the Pac-12, but also you watch NBA players like Klay Thompson. It was my dad picking up the phone and calling Tony Bennett and saying, Tony, no one else in the Pac-12 is offering him a scholarship. You're crazy. You have to take this guy. It was those types of phone calls that changed people's lives. And it started in 1984. What is it? Necessity is the root of all invention, right? So loses his job, and he starts a youth program for my brother in Orange, California, the Orange Panthers. Practiced at St. John's Elementary, I believe, was the school. And then, of course, he started an older team as well. And he started coaching what was then travel basketball. It's become AAU basketball. And he coached, again, out of necessity, my brother's teams, then my teams. And then from that, he started to understand that, wait, I have great connections. He had great respect within the basketball community. He knew everybody, literally knew everybody. Couldn't remember his car keys. I believe 3 times he drove away with the gas still in the car, like forgot. He's actually, there were times in which my dad was so into basketball that he would pull up, he would pay for the gas, he would come up, and he would drive away without getting any gas. But he could tell you about every player he ever recruited, even the ones that didn't say yes. He could tell you the story about a kid named Ronnie Coleman at Jacksonville, who came to him at Jacksonville and was flunking out of school. And so my dad went to his head manager and said, listen, you're going to get Ronnie Coleman up. You're going to walk him to class. You're going to meet him at the end of class. You're going to walk him to his next class. You're going to take him to study hall. You're going to do everything Ronnie Coleman's supposed to do. And at the end of that semester, Ronnie Coleman was on the dean's list. And the manager flunked out. It's a true story. So he went from being a travel team coach and an AAU coach to suddenly he turned his business, which he operated with my mother. They were married 45 years until he passed away. And of course, anybody knows a great coach has to have a saint for a wife. And he did. And they started a business together called Branch West. It was called Branch West because my grandpa's car company was Branch Motors, so he called it Branch West. But he turned the idea of Branch West, which was an interior design firm, which by day he would market the interior design firm because my mom's a talented interior designer. And then he used the same name to have Branch West Basketball, which became a basketball placement service. He was essentially a player advocate, only eventually paid for by the parents or by somebody close to the parent, because as many of you know, if you're trying to send your kid to school, or if your kids like Spencer are going to an incredible school like Harvard, it's harder and harder to get in and even harder to pay for it. And what a college scholarship just opens doors, as it did for Tiger back in the day. So he turned the necessity of having to get a job and having to find a way to make money's meet and then to ends meet into this incredible business. And then he started a basketball academy and more AAU teams. And if you look on college basketball rosters today, or if you walk into a Division III school program with me, everywhere I go, hey, you know, I talked to your dad. He always had a kid for me. He would always have a kid. He'd always have somebody who could play for me, who could start for me, who was better than the players I had. I thought about the three things that anybody ever hopes for in a coach. Right? Somebody who sees something in them that maybe they don't even see inside themselves. And then the second part is he had the ability to draw that out of you. By hook or by crook, he had a way to foster the growth of so many young basketball players. And then he would basically sell them, almost at times oversell them. My brother and I would often tell my dad, don't tell the coach, okay, that the kid that you have, that they've never heard of, that they're not recruiting, is better than all the kids they've already recruited. Don't tell me how to do what I do. Okay, I got it. But that's what he would do. He would see something in you you didn't see in yourself. He knew how to bring it out of you, and he knew how to find the right home for you, to give you the greatest opportunity in your life, which is a college scholarship. That's my dad.